continue the conversation with the Good Samaritans lending a helping hand. The South African Youth Economic Council has also come forward to donate much-needed food, parcels, blankets and other essential items to the communities of Molweni and Inanda in KwaZulu-Natal. We're joined now by the Council's President, Kanakana Mudzanani, to elaborate on the initiative. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Mpo, and good afternoon to your viewers as well. And thank you so much for having us here today.
You are embarking on a fantastic initiative. I mean, we've seen people from all walks of life moving goods to KwaZulu-Natal, offering their assistance. How do you hope to assist?
Well, Mpo, before I respond to your question, I think it is very important to say this, that in the midst of a national crisis, here we are, we still need to put our energy and our efforts to ensuring that we monitor against fat cats, who even in the midst of a crisis see an opportunity to loot state resources and to steal from the people who are in dire need at this point in time. It is alarming that even the government itself must be putting efforts against government officials to ensure that services are delivered to the people that are in need and resources are allocated to the families, to the businesses and communities that are affected by the floods in KZN. But to respond to your question, the South African Youth Economic Council, in partnership with the Minnan Chinese Chamber of Commerce and other stakeholders, has decided to take initiative to reaffirm once more that there is indeed a critical role we can play as communities, as NGOs, as well as NPOs, to ensure that we, in the midst of such a crisis, we unite in our efforts to rebuild the economy of KwaZulu-Natal, but most importantly to ensure that the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in KwaZulu-Natal is mitigated and we do something about it.
So in what form are you hoping to assist?
Well, there's only so much we can do because we are not government. We do not have so much resources. So what we have done is we've managed to get a pool of private players who have resources, and we've said, look, you guys have benefited quite a lot from the communities that have been affected by these floods. It's about time you play a contributing hand. It's about time you deliver food parcels to ensure that the question of hunger is not that imminent. It's about time you give us food blankets, because we do realize that we are headed to winter and most families are going to be affected. But much more important, we also take into account the fact that many child-headed families are going to be emerging because so many households have lost parents, and somebody has to ensure that such kids who are going to be now heading households at least have a shelter over their head. Absolutely. So that is the role that we are going to be playing as the South African Youth Economic Council. But beyond that point, we are going to be making sure that we lobby private players as well as public players to say, look, we've got an economic crisis because of the COVID lockdown, and there is no doubt that these floods are going to add into that. For instance, the largest harbour, which is in Durban, has been affected by this. It is difficult to access it. That means we are going to have a lot of jobs that are going to be lost in the process. You've got a lot of infrastructure that is debilitated. You've got a lot of roads that are not working. So the question of access is going to be an issue. So we have to make sure that we call on ministries that are designated to perform such functions to say, guys, we need a functioning economy. We need to make sure that people are employed. We need to make sure that social security is still intact. So you guys, with the resources, you need to make sure that the work is being done, and we have to gatekeep against corrupt fat cats who are operating as government officials.
In your gatekeeping efforts, how are you going to ensure that the parcels that have been put aside for people who desperately need them do indeed reach them?
So, for instance, in our efforts to assist these communities, we are working hand in hand with Ward councillors. But what we've also done is that we've identified stakeholders in society, such as your religious groups, your churches, and we've brought them in. And we said, you guys interact on a daily basis with the affected families. You know the affected members of the communities. So give us the names, and we are going to make sure that we deliver these food parcels to such people. And in our program today in KwaZulu-Natal, the Chief Executive Officer in the Office of the Public Protector will be on our side, and we are definitely going to be engaging the Office of the Public Protector in saying, guys, you do know what is happening in KZN. We are aware that there is a premier who is already alleged to have been utilizing state resources for his own personal benefit. So what do we then expect from your office in terms of coordinating an effort from government, one which is not characterized with looting and corruption.
What are your thoughts around Premier Sihle Zikalala's apology? I mean, he did apologize for those water tankers, but, you know, the people had already been left with a bitter taste in their mouth.
You know, unfortunately, as a leader of society, you do not have what is characterized as a second chance. You need to understand that we are operating in difficult times in our country, and the least of our worries should be corruption at this point in time. We've got people who have lost jobs. I mean, youth unemployment is sitting incredibly at 74%, and KwaZulu-Natal is amongst the provinces with such high levels of youth unemployment. You are looking at a country where government officials, day in, day out, are not trusted by members of the community. So unfortunately, we need way beyond more than a punishment for Premier Sihle Zikalala. I must categorically state it that at this point in time, we cannot have a leader of a province utilizing state resources for the benefit of himself and that of his family. We expect the president to react in a manner that is harsh, and he must restore confidence to South Africans. He must send a strong message to government officials that anyone who seeks to benefit or who seeks to ensure that they enrich themselves in the midst of a crisis are going to be dealt with decisively. So Premier Sihle Zikalala, through the Office of the Public Protector and through the President himself, must be brought to book, and he must account.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming in studio to talk to us about some of your efforts. It's the president there of the SA Youth Economic Council in KwaZulu-Natal, helping victims affected by the floods. Kanakana Mudzanani speaking to us there.